We're back with another video today, guys, and I want to talk about the importance of starting right now. Last night I was having a conversation with a good buddy of mine who is a little bit older than me. He's 28, and it was just us two, and we were like, hey, he said, hey, you're kind of big on like the whole investing thing, right? And I was like, yeah, I mean, to a degree. I'm not letting it completely overtake my life, and I still have still got to have a balance, right? I still have some fun, but I do invest a pretty disproportionate amount of my income. I'm not penny pinching by any means, but if I have spare income, it goes towards investing. I don't go and buy myself useless stuff. So he's like, okay, well, this is kind of where I'm at. This is my philosophy on it. And we just went to the compound interest calculator, ran the numbers for when he's 55. And like I said, he's a little bit older than me. So this was a 27-year run of compounding, and starting from zero, by the way. So his cost of living was $1,500 a month. And I'm like, man, you don't understand how lucky you are. $1,500 a month, man. And for his age, right? Being 28, but no wife, no kids. Cost of living's pretty low. And I was like, dude, with your income, because I work with the guy, we make the same amount. I was like, hey, you can comfortably invest $3,000 a month. And putting those numbers in, the difference between starting now versus starting in 10 years is very, very, it was a selling point for me, and I know this stuff, but just being able to see it again and get that refresher of what compound interest does, it's ridiculous. So I'm going to put some screenshots up on the screen, but you start out with $3,000 a month, and then at the end of it, you have $7.5 million after 27 years versus starting 10 years later. And now let's say you're 38 and you have 17 years of compounding. The difference is you'll have $1.2 million. So we're talking a difference of, what is that? 6.3 million dollars just by starting 10 years earlier, doing the same 3,000 every month. But that's how important it is initially. And I'm glad I'm at least getting serious about this now when I'm 23. And if I was this serious at 18, man, holy crap, I would be so much farther ahead. And I think everybody can have that hindsight to just wish that they had started a little bit younger. Because once you get to that point, let's say you've got $3 or $4 million invested, and you make 10% a year, you make 300 grand for not doing a thing. The work is already done. You're getting to see the fruits of all that labor that you put in and sacrifice, to where you can make $300,000 or $400,000 a year doing nothing. And maybe at that point you're still working. Maybe at that point you're not. Maybe you just decide, hey, I make $400,000 a year in interest. I'm gonna live off of $100,000. And I'm going to let the other $300,000 keep compounding in my portfolio. And that's totally something you can do. And that's perfectly fine. You don't have to live off what you make in interest. I was saying, dude, if you live off that $200,000 a year in interest, that's more money than we're living off of right now. And we're having to do this for 5 days a week. And we're having to keep all this budgeting stuff in mind and contributing. At that point, you don't have to contribute if you don't want to. The work is already done. And it's going to take, a decade and a half. And really, it depends on how late you start. For him, it's probably going to take 2 decades because he started a little bit later. But that's how important and crucial it is to just get started right now, because those first couple years, those contributions are really where things just get absolutely disgusting. And waiting until a perfect time, or waiting until it's time to get serious, until you want to buy a house, or until you have kids, bro, you're too late. And people, let's say you get started in your late 30s, I'm not saying you missed the ball, because you can't always increase your income. I don't think income has a ceiling if you don't want it to, and if you're not comfortable like that. Because even in your deepest sleep, if you're sleeping on your shoulder and it hurts so bad, in your deepest sleep, you can move. So if you're completely uncomfortable with your situation, you totally have the power to change that. I believe anybody can do it, but not everybody will do it, and not everybody should do it, right? Some people got some different situations going on, a lot of responsibilities, and those responsibilities, the meaning that comes from those maybe outweighs the sacrifice that it would be willing to take and miss out on all those memories. So, and that's why it's so hard to get started when you're 40, because dude, when I'm 40, I'm going to have different priorities in life. I'm not going to want to be hustling. I'm not going to want to be doing a pool route. I'm not going to want to be working 5 days a week. I would like to be like at a work optional point. You know, maybe I work 2 or 3 days a week, and then maybe I'm able to have some sort of income that's completely in my hands, preferably online, preferably being able to have location freedom and geography freedom. But that's what I'm trying to, I guess, harp on, is that you're never going to have that optionality if you don't really buckle down in these early years. And this is when it's the hardest, because this is when you don't see the compounding work at all. You have the most distractions on your plate with people wanting to go out, spend money, be reckless, and to where your mindset and your discipline is not as strong as it's probably going to be when you're 35 and when you have to get up because you have people depending on you. You have to live as if right now those people are already depending on you. And I think that's something that's helped give me a new sort of meaning, to where I wake up and I have to do what I have to do. You know, I was at work until 5 a.m. last night, and I mean, right now it's 12:30, but I got up at 11 because I had already done a pool this morning, and I'm on my way to my next one. There's just, there's different seasons of life. And I really believe in your early 20s, the most narrow path that people take, not a lot of people are willing to do it, is really buckling down and locking in. It's just straight up locking in, bro. And I think a lot of young people too, I'm not going to say like it's completely narrow, like I'm totally that different, because I think a lot of people have had to do it because they've grown up and they've seen COVID, they've seen all this stuff online, to where they know the traditional path is just a scam. And you're kind of, I don't want to say you're forced to be an entrepreneur, but you are forced to try to make something happen, whether that's just career-wise or going into an entrepreneur, small business or big business field. That is really the only way, because if you just map it out, making minimum wage, bro, it's not going to happen. It's just not. You have to increase your income, and you have to keep your living expenses low. And then that gap of money per month is what is going to buy the freedom back in a few years. So I'm hoping that this video made sense, guys. I'm going to keep it a little bit shorter, but I just really wanted to say that. And I'm going to link the compound interest calculator down below. Run these numbers with yourself, with your monthly contributions and how many years of compounding annually. Get some spreadsheets out, guys. Get a feel and get a grasp of what is actually possible, and what's possible if you do the bare minimum, what's possible if you push a little bit more, what's possible if you just push a little bit more for 5 years. What does that look like? Have a really good grasp on where you're going in life. Don't be a feather in the wind, right? Happen to life. Don't let life happen to you. Okay, this is not meant to be like motivational, but at the end of the day, you got to get a grasp on where you're going in life, and you got to have a say in what's going to happen in your life. All right, it's going to be it for me. If you enjoy the video, like, subscribe, you know, the whole shebang. I really enjoy making these videos, man. And to everybody that watches this all the way through, I seriously appreciate you. I really do. And I'm going to have some videos, you know, where I'm changing it up, I guess. Right now, just the car ones, because I'm still kind of just building the habit. But this is something I thoroughly enjoy, and I really appreciate you if you're watching all the way through. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.